Hi everyone and welcome back to Talking to Teachers. My name is Chris Height and today I'm joined by a familiar face from our school and college counseling department here at CBA. Today I have the pleasure of talking to counselor Mr. Frick. Mr. Frick, how are you today?
I don't know if I'd call it a pleasure, but thank you, Chris. Doing pretty well.
Thanks for joining us on the show today. I really appreciate it.
More than welcome. I appreciate it.
So, Mr. Frick, we'll start with a question I've asked, I think, every CBA teacher now officially. What is your CBA origin story? How did you end up teaching here or being a counselor here at CBA?
Here at CBA, I had worked in the public schools for 25 years, and I was getting kind of frustrated with the way things were going there, and just I was having some frustration and was starting to even doubt whether I wanted to do it anymore. And I was talking to a friend of mine from lacrosse officiating that I knew, and he was like, well, how many years do you have in the public? So I said, 25. He said, well, retire. I'm like, I can't retire. I'm too young. I wasn't even 50 at that point. And then I did my research and found that I could. And I said, well, but the thing is, I have one kid who's about to go to college at that point and one who's 3 years behind her. I can't not work. And Chris, I can't make this up. 2 days later, this job popped up. And so I applied for it. Ironically, I called a admissions guy I knew who was very familiar with CBA, and that guy was Pat Brennan, who was at Providence. I spoke to him about the opening and kind of got a prep on it. It gave me some great info and helped me prep for the interview. And then I interviewed with Mr. Fales and a cast of thousands, and I guess I fooled them enough, and they hired me. And a year later, I started here, and it was fantastic. So that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Frick, you were my guidance counselor. I think your first year here. I remember that my sophomore year.
Yeah.
But I remember.
And then things got weird.
And then things got a little mixed up. But if I remember correctly, you told me about another profession you kind of had before CBA. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You know, the world of media that you were in.
So when I was in high school, you and I were just talking about off air before. The high school I went to and then ended up working at years later, when I went there, we had a TV studio, and I was placed in the TV production class my sophomore year of high school because nothing else fit. And so my counselor at the time, man who I still think of every day, Pete Cross, said, take this, you'll like it. Very long story short, I ended up, it just took off for me. Things just connected. I really enjoyed it. And then I ended up going to college and studying broadcast journalism at Ithaca, up in central southern tier of New York. Not upstate, central southern tier. There is a difference. And I went to Ithaca and I majored in broadcast journalism, was very active obviously in the TV station and the radio station up there as well, both in sports and in news. I was the play-by-play guy for our Ithaca Bombers football telecasts, and worked on the Gridiron Report, which was our coaches show. Among other things, I was the executive producer for our news program with a guy named David Muir, who's now the ABC World News Tonight anchor. And then coming out of Ithaca, I did what everybody in my position did, and I applied for a bunch of jobs. I ended up right out of college, I worked at Channel 17 WNCN in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was an NBC affiliate, brand new affiliate, so we were really starting the station from the very bottom, from the ground up. So I was a news producer there. In English, what that means is I was in charge of what stories were we going to cover, what stories were we going to run on our newscast, and in what order, and in what format. So was it just going to be the anchor reading the story? Was it going to be a live shot with a reporter on location? Was it going to be just a package of a news story of a minute and a half that a reporter put together? Or was it just going to be like a soundbite? And so I did that, and I produced the morning show, the morning break-ins during the Today Show. So the Today Show cuts to local news. I was producing those, and I also produced the noon. So I had the very glamorous hours. I got in every day about 2:30 in the morning, and I went home about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. So me and Boston Market became really familiar. And then I moved back up to, after things in Raleigh were going a little bit weird with our station, and So I moved back up north, and I was doing some freelance work and spent some time at ESPN and at MSG Network through some friends. And then there was this news station that was starting called News 12 New Jersey. They had already had a News 12 on Long Island. Now they were bringing one to New Jersey. And I interviewed there, and I was the first employee they hired. And I literally built the assignment desk, like hammered in nails and everything, and also built the contacts and everything. And so I helped to start News 12 and was there for, gosh, I don't even know how long at this point. And then I went back. Then I ended up getting a job at the place I'd interned, which was New Jersey Network, which is no longer around anymore. And that was a state-owned. So that was a lot of political coverage. So I covered the State House, governors, became quite familiar with Governor Florio and Governor Whitman and all the ones that followed, DeFrancesco, and there were a lot in there. So covered a lot of politics at that point. So, but I just didn't like the industry.
Not a fan?
No, it was a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work doesn't matter, and those who know me know I'm not afraid of working hard. But it wasn't the lifestyle I wanted. I knew eventually I wanted to be a husband and a dad. All of those moves I had were within the course of like 3 years. And that's just not moving from station to station, but it's moving homes. And so it wasn't what I wanted. And I'd always thought about education, and then my old teacher called me and said, "Hey, we have an opening. Why don't you come and do this?" And so I did the alternate route and started teaching TV production and English at Columbia High School, and then moved on through.
Absolutely. Awesome stories. Awesome stories. I always love hearing your story, Mr. Frick. It's always interesting to me. As a multimedia type of guy, I always like hearing your story. Absolutely.
No, I appreciate that. There's a lot of cool stories. I mean, I had some great experiences. Being in the Giants locker room on game week, being told off by some of the players, being told that was a stupid question by a couple players, and also, again, like covering governors and presidents. I got to interview presidents. I got to interview President Clinton. It was cool. Just wasn't what I wanted.
Sure, absolutely. And now talk about your previous job experiences. How have they helped you here at CBA now as a counselor? How have those experiences really formed how you teach and how you counsel?
That's a great question. I think that the main thing I would say on that is when I'm speaking to you guys in my office, I always say, and you've heard me say this a lot, where a career path is very rarely a straight line. Using my example is a concrete one that it's not a straight line. I mean, it kind of goes like this. And I mean, if you think about it, I'm on my third career. I was in TV, then I was teaching, and then I became a counselor. And back in the day when I got my certification to become a counselor, you had to have been a teacher first. Now that's not necessary. So I spent a lot of years in the classroom before I went into the office as a counselor. So I think it really helped me in that way that I'm able to relate to you guys like, okay, you're saying you want to do this, but what if? What if? I think that the other way it helps is that I've been able to get a lot of communication examples. I've had to communicate with a lot of different type of people. If I was interviewing, Governor Whitman or Governor Florio or Governor Christie, and then the very next day, I might get sent out to go and cover a shooting in Elizabeth, and I'm going to be kind of handling that and communicating that a little bit differently. And conversely, if I had to cover another plane crash, which I covered one of those, and that, so I think that it really helped me relate to knowing that I have to communicate differently with different people. That's probably one of the things. And the other thing it does give me, I mean, you kind of said it earlier, like, gives me some cool stories.
Yeah.
And at the very least, I can make them relatable.
Absolutely. Very relatable for me when I first came into your office as a sophomore. But Mr. Frick, it's only been a couple years at CBA.
Sure.
But do you have any favorite moments so far that you could think of? I mean, there's been definitely some awesome moments, at least in my years here. Yeah,
it's been fun. I mean, I'm in year 3 now. I think that there are moments I miss. I referee high school lacrosse, and I don't get to do games here anymore. So, and I always appreciated doing Mr. Santos's games. Actually, he was the other person I reached out to when this opening came up because he was the other person I knew here, and I had a very good relationship with him as an official, to a coach. I think there are many things that really kind of hit hard. I think one of the best things was the day we got the masks off my first year. That was an awesome day. That was a lot of fun. Teaching the college counseling class has just been a lot of fun. Both working, especially when I first started, when Ms. Morello and I were doing it together, and like we would walk in and there'd be like, what are we going to do today? And that was it was a lot of fun, and it helped us really kind of create our CBA baseline. The first year that I saw the pipe out of the seniors going out with the pipes and drums,
awesome.
That was really, really cool. There have been so many. I'm very lucky to have found this place. It's funny. When I left my prior school, I said, I am going to miss the kids. And yet, what I've said all the time to teachers who are thinking about leaving, places was, what they have at every school? Kids. This is a different place. And I consider myself very, very lucky to be here. I think that one of the things I notice is, the staff here is very together, and I think that there's a lot of, and I really appreciate the fact that like people stay here. People stay. So there's been a lot of really cool things. Some things I don't want to mention on air, but it's really been. But the main thing for me is the relationship I've been able to build with you guys, whether you are directly my student or not. And I think that really kind of comes across, like doing the retreat a couple weeks ago, and I did it last year as well. Those are fun, and it's a chance for you guys to see us outside of that role, and us to see you guys outside the classroom and outside of the school building, and kind of realize that we're all kind of people, and we do things. We do stuff. So those are kind of some of my favorite things there.
Yeah, and Mr. Frick, it's funny because my last question for you actually does have to do with senior retreat.
Okay.
So at senior
Pizza
retreat,
was really good.
The pizza was really good. At senior retreat, you wore a shirt. You wore the Rush shirt. Yeah, remember, you were very excited to tell me that the night before. But I gotta ask you. I always like to end with a fun question.
Sure.
What are your favorite bands? Because that's obviously great shirt right there. I've been getting into Rush lately. Actually.
Have you?
Yeah, actually.
That's my man. All right. Obviously, Rush is up there. The shirt I have is Moving Pictures. It was the one that came out in 1981, and my daughter got me that for Christmas this year. My older daughter. So Rush has always been up there. I'm actually reading Geddy Lee's autobiography right now, and it's really interesting. I didn't realize his parents are Holocaust survivors. They were both in the concentration camps, 8 of them. His dad was in 8 concentration camps. So if you listen to the song Red Sector A, it's all about the Holocaust, which is kind of hits hard. If you look at my Spotify playlist, you'd get whiplash. I have everything on there from Rush to Zac Brown. I love the new Zac Brown album, the one that's all the covers from the live thing. They do everything on there from Babo O'Reilly and Sweet Emotion with Steven Tyler to The Way You Look Tonight. So like Aerosmith to Sinatra. I have Sinatra on my playlist as well. I have a lot of Jimmy Buffett. Rest in peace, Jimmy. Toby Keith as well. Another one that we just lost way too soon. And I have a lot of Broadway. I am a Broadway junkie. I love Broadway plays and Broadway musicals. So I also have a lot of stuff from Dear Evan Hansen and Wicked. A little bit from Six. Like there's no rhyme or reason to my playlist. It's everywhere. And so if you got in my car and you were listening to plays, you'd be like, where did this come from? So it's a little bit of everything. And I'll have a playlist also, like before I go ref a lacrosse game, I'll have that on. I'll have a playlist that I play in the car on my way there. Not trying to psych myself up, actually trying to calm myself down to deal with the coaches and the players. But yeah, my playlist is all over the place. But Rush is definitely, if I had to narrow it down, Rush, Zac Brown, and Broadway. Those would be my big 3.
I love it. I love the big 3. I'm the same way with my playlist. I mean, it's everywhere. But my big one's Bruce Springsteen.
Of course it is.
I've always been a big Bruce guy.
Now, have you ever seen him live?
I have 3 times.
Okay. If you have to have seen him live.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten into him. I actually met Bruce at a lacrosse game. His son played lacrosse for Ranny.
Wow.
And I met him in the parking lot when the other team was late getting there.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up having a pretty big discussion, too. It was pretty cool. If you live in Monmouth County, you have to have had a Bruce Springsteen run-in story somewhere.
Absolutely. I have one of my own.
There you go.
That's for an off-air, though. Long story. It's been told, actually, in a CBA Digital Network article from freshman year, way back when.
I'll have to go back. I wasn't here at that time. Remember, I came in your sophomore year, so I got a little bit of work.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Frick, thank you for joining us on this show. Really, it's been a pleasure. Absolutely awesome interview. I've really enjoyed this. Very interesting, actually. I didn't know everything about your story, so it was really cool.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate being here.
Of course. Well, for Mr. Frick, I'm Chris Height. Signing off. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.